Welcome to the In Love with PMDD podcast. I am your host, Dr. Rose, your PMDD relationship psychotraumatologist, and I help you stop the monthly PMDD breakups. PMDD is premenstrual dysphoric disorder. It is in approximately 1 in 5 women, and it makes you want to break up with your partner approximately 1 to 2 weeks before your period every single month. So as someone who has suffered with PMDD for over 18 years, I dedicated my doctorate practice to helping partners navigate those monthly PMDD breakups with everything from attachment styles, triggers, sensitivity to noise, sensitivity to touch, all of the things that you really struggle with when you're in PMDD. And I also dedicated my dissertation to a phenomenological study of the relationship experiences of partners of individuals who suffer with premenstrual dysphoric disorder. So I'm not just here to help the sufferer, the one who is suffering with PMDD. I am here for the partners as well. So if you need those private sessions, make sure you go to inlovewithpmdd.com and get those tools. So let's get into this week's PMDD trauma transformational tools that is going to help you stop the monthly breakups and stop the suffering and stress in your PMDD relationship. Let's get into it. So today I want to start off by saying, I know you're not okay. If you're suffering in PMDD right now, I know you're not okay. I know that you are feeling frustrated, you're feeling overwhelmed, and you're feeling the pressure of needing to keep it all together, put it back together, be a different version of yourself, even though you're silently suffering with a lot of your PMDD symptoms, and you may be feeling like your partner really doesn't understand how much it takes out of you in order to just exist while you're in PMDD. And the reason why I'm saying this is because I think when individuals have PMDD and from the outside looking in, you don't understand PMDD unless you've ever had it, unless you're in it. And as someone who has suffered with it for over 18 years, I know what it feels like to be in those dark days. And the old version of me used to have to fight through those dark days. And now I just know when they're there and I kind of allow it. I think a lot of times when I used to beat myself up about having PMDD symptoms, not being able to do as many things as I wanted to do, not being able to do all the things that are in my brain, not being able to show up the way that I needed to show up in my relationship in order to not trigger my partner so that they wouldn't shut down on me, so that they wouldn't go off on me. I put so much pressure on myself to be a certain way that I got burned out from that because I was never really truly being authentic to who I was. You know, I would have people say, "Hey, how are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm great," or "I'm good," or "I'm whatever." And then I would go home at night and mostly in the shower, in the bathroom. You know, for a lot of parents, I know you may have your breakdowns in very, private areas because you don't want to trigger your children, or maybe you wait until they go to sleep at night. I know there were so many years that I pretended like I was okay when I was not okay because I didn't really even know how to explain why I wasn't okay. I didn't know how to explain PMDD to people who didn't understand PMDD. And I think that's why when my private clients come to me, there's such an emotional reaction immediately, just when they realize that I know what it is that they're going through, that they don't have to over explain it, that they don't have to like give me scenarios, that they don't have to like give me statistics. Like I can let you know what it is that you're going through because I've been through it. And just that alone makes them emotional because they're like, finally, someone sees me, understands me, knows that this is a thing, doesn't question me and think that I'm lying, doesn't think that I'm exaggerating. And I just want to let you know that it's okay to not be okay when you're in PMDD. There have been some months where I've used all of my tools and Suffering really does bring a lot of revelation. By revelation, I mean it reveals a lot about what's going on in your relationship. When you're suffering, a lot of times things are revealed. One of the most recent things that I've suffered with is I was dating someone and we ended it. And, it's just dating for people on the outside. But for me, I put so much effort. Like I'm a relationship type of person. So on the outside looking in, I remember my friend saying, "Oh, it's only been a month. Like you should be glad it wasn't a year." No, it was like a month and a half. It was like practically 2 months. But they're like, "You should be glad it wasn't a year or wasn't this." But I was literally heartbroken because I am a relationship person. And when it ended and rightfully so, like that's the thing, it should have ended. This was not my person. But I just feel like dating is so hard for me because I just would prefer to just find my person and that's it. Like a lot of times because I invest everything, I'm a very like all in or all out. Either I'm all in and I'm opening myself up to you, I'm letting you know my dreams, my hopes, my desires, or I'm just being completely like cordial and you get like surface level me. And so when I decide to date, specifically when I date only one person, which is what I decided to do with this person, we were exclusively dating. And it ended, my heart like dropped and I was in PMDD and I was in that place of not being okay because so much of my emotions was tied to the outcome of this relationship. And I am a relationship person. So it does affect, every aspect of me and PMDD, right? I don't compartmentalize and say, oh, my relationship's over here, my symptoms over here, my parenting's over here. Like it just all blends in together. And so I knew it was the right decision. And I actually, you know, talked to the person I was dating and I just thanked them a lot because I know it takes a lot to end it. Like when it comes time to, you know, end things, break up or whatever, it's like we both knew it, but I probably wasn't going to be the one to say it because there was like the 80-20 rule where there was so many good things, but this person had the courage to say, I think you're amazing. Cause that's how they approach me. They're like, I think you're amazing. And all these other things, but it's just not a good fit for these specific reasons. And I knew it, but I was willing to ignore it because that's what made me feel like maybe I'm not ready to fully date for a relationship because I was still willing to ignore the red flags, which is what I've done with a lot of past relationships that have not lasted. And I noticed myself falling right back into that pattern because there were so many amazing things. Like I love going on the dates. I love the attention to detail. I love the chivalry. I love the understanding. I love the kindness. I love the peace of it. I love so many aspects of dating, but there are certain things that were missing that I was actually willing to be without just to be with this person eventually. And it was a gift. It was a gift and a curse. It was a gift because they have freed me up to find whoever's meant for me, but it was a curse because it hurt. And so in that moment when I was suffering and I was in PMDD, so it exacerbated my symptoms, obviously, because I had an emotional overload. So when I started to try to suppress my symptoms and pretending that it was going to be okay, it prevented me from having that moment of crying and having that healthy emotional release of my emotions. Like I genuinely was sad. I genuinely was heartbroken. I was beating myself up over about it because all my friends were like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that you're so attached this early. Like, but that's me. I'm gonna get attached early. I'm a relationship person. So like I have to like reel myself in. But when I started to try to hold that in to not be embarrassed by the fact that this relationship was ended and I was so heartbroken over it, I began to feel overwhelmed and it created a deep sense of pain for me when I was in PMDD because I just felt even more depressed. Like, honestly, I felt super depressed. And what did I do? I went to go watch Hallmark movies and Lifetime movies and Netflix movies that were completely emotional that made me feel even worse. Did it help me? Absolutely not. But the next thing that, trying to pretend like you're not okay when you're not okay, or trying to pretend like you are okay when you're not okay, is isolation and loneliness. When you act like everything is fine and you're not fine, it isolates you from your partner, from really knowing what's really going on with you. Like, how many times has your partner asked you, like, hey, is everything okay? And you're like, yeah, everything's fine. And then you almost get annoyed with them with asking. Here's why they're asking, because they're connected to you. They know that everything's not fine. They're not asking you because they're trying to figure it out. They know that everything's not fine, and they're just wanting you to open up about what part of you is not fine so that they can help you. They're doing it so that they can help you. So without having that communication with your partner about how whatever's bothering you in PMDD, you can start to feel lonely, and you can start to feel misunderstood and unsupported. And that can actually lead to suicidal ideations and suicidal thoughts, because you can begin to think, no one understands me. I've been there. I've been there where I felt like no one understands me. No one's ever going to understand me. I'm always going to be going through this. They're never going to really get it. And then you feel like you're in this place of doom and gloom, and you're in PMDD. You don't see a light at the end of the tunnel. You're going to have PMDD for, another 10 years, 15 years. And you start to isolate yourself. So because you feel like your partner doesn't understand, you stop talking about it. You're kind of like, what's the point? What's the point of even talking about it if they're not going to fully get it? When I shut down with talking about my PMDD symptoms and I got to that place of isolation and loneliness, it was when I realized that every single time I talked about my symptoms, it triggered my partner. And I didn't want that reaction from my partner because it made my symptoms worse, because then we started arguing and fighting. So I was like, you know what? I'm not getting any support. I'm not getting loved anymore by expressing my feelings. So, like, I'm just going to pretend like I don't have PMDD. And you know what happened? I pretended like I wasn't in PMDD, like I wasn't suffering, like I wasn't triggered. And they went along with it because for them, it was better. And for me, I was suffering in silence. And so, what that caused is a level of increased anxiety and depression within me. So, ignoring your PMDD symptoms can worsen your PMDD symptoms like anxiety, depression, fatigue. If you're acting like you're not tired and you have fatigue and you really do, if you're acting like you don't have misophonia, which is a sensitivity to noise, but you really do, it's going to make them feel worse, because those kind of symptoms, if you ignore them, they actually magnify so that you do pay attention to them. That's what I recognized. That's what I recognize. It intensifies your emotions around those symptoms, because if you ignore anxiety, if you ignore depression, if you ignore fatigue, if you ignore misophonia, if you ignore body aches, they become intensified so that you finally get to the point where you cannot ignore them. So if you're thinking that ignoring your symptoms is the way to make them go away, you're absolutely wrong. They're going to bang on your door. It's like someone coming to your door of your house, and they're like ringing the doorbell, and you're just like, oh, let's just pretend we're not home. And so you're ignoring it, ignoring it. They're going to start ringing more and more and more. They're going to start banging on the door because they want you to pay attention to them. Your emotions like anxiety, depression, fatigue, it's wanting you to pay attention to them so that you can align your life to accommodate those symptoms. Like when I was ignoring my fatigue and I ended up getting adrenal fatigue because I was just going, like ignoring the fact that I was exhausted, I burnt out. I I got, remember when I got that herniated disc and I couldn't do things? Like, you eventually get to a point where if you ignore your symptoms for so long, you'll get to the point where you're debilitated to where you cannot ignore them. And then you're going to be like, dang, I should have just paid attention to you. And then the symptoms are going to be there. Like, yeah, you know, untreated PMDD can absolutely lead to depression, anxiety, and suicidal ideations. If you are not paying attention to when you fall into depression, when you heighten up into anxiety, if you're not reaching out to get help, then they're absolutely going to get worse. And you're going to get in that realm of feeling helpless. And helplessness, feeling like there's no end in sight, is the key sign of suicidal ideations. And that's why I always try to tell my clients, get those PMDD relationship sessions when you feel like you're going through a lot in PMDD and you just need the tools of what you can like do about it, customize, go to inlovewithpmdd.com. That's why I'm here. So that you don't get to that realm of, you feel very helpless when you don't have the tools. What I found is when you have the tools, when we get off of a session, I literally had a client yesterday and she was literally having suicidal ideations because she was feeling so helpless about the state of her relationship. And we got off the session and she's like, I feel better. I feel like I have hope. And that's what I give you, because you get empowered by having tools that are specifically within the realms of your relationship. But doing nothing about it is going to keep you in that place of feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm suffering and there's nothing I can do about it. So you get into this realm of, the next thing is the loss of control. So without help, PMDD can feel like this uncontrollable monster that takes over your mind, that takes over your emotions every single month. So this sense of losing control is going to lead to helplessness, which is a major contributor to suicidal ideations. When you feel like PMDD is ruling your mind, ruling your body, you kind of feel like you want to take your hands off the wheel. You're like, okay, well, if PMDD is going to run me, like, I don't know what to do. Like, I guess I'll just let it ruin me. And that's the next thing that happens, is you have this hopelessness about your relationship where you're pretending that you're okay. I've had so many clients post selfies on their Instagram, their Facebook, their TikTok. Not really TikTok. I would say Instagram and Facebook. And they're like all of these loving posts. And then they get on a session with me and they're barely talking in their home. They hate each other, or they don't like each other, or they're fighting with each other, or they have hurtful feelings towards each other. Um, and when you get to that point, it's because you've been pretending like you're okay in your relationship when you're really struggling. If you're struggling in your relationship, you don't deserve to be in a relationship where you're struggling. Get help for it. When the relationship begins to suffer, maybe because your partner isn't fully aware of the intensity of your PMDD symptoms or what you're going through, or they don't know what you're going through because you're suffering in silence, your PMDD relationship is not going to survive. You need to get help about what is really going on in your mind. And I know every day in PMDD is different. This is why, like my like a client of mine, or client, like a Chris, a friend of mine who has been in a relationship with someone, has been, it's not, they broke up, with someone who has PMDD. And he said, having untreated PMDD can lead to suicide because you get to that place where you're so helpless. And he just couldn't understand, as a partner who has done so much research for over 6 years about PMDD, he couldn't understand how someone could have PMDD and not be getting treatment for it. And by treatment, it wasn't like medication to like get rid of PMDD, because for me, I have had PMDD for over 18 years. I'm not looking for a cure for PMDD. I'm looking for, or I have looked for something that reduces my PMDD symptoms. That was like a more realistic goal of mine. I never, like outside of earlier in my journey, I got to this fork in the road where I was like, I'm going to get to this point where if I don't get rid of PMDD, I'm going to feel like nothing I do is going to matter. Like, even if I make progress with, reducing my PMDD symptoms, like I'm going to consistently feel like, oh, that's not good enough. That's not good enough. I just want to reduce my PMDD symptoms. And that's all I promise to my clients. I don't have a magic wand, but I'm trying to tell you, I wouldn't have a business if what I did didn't work. And what I do is I reduce your PMDD symptoms by acknowledging what it is that you're really going through. I am ripping the covers off of things that you're trying to hide, things that you're trying not to say to your partner, things that you've not said to each other. Because the more you hide the true issues that are going on in your relationship, the more they're going to go on. They're not going to get better if you don't reveal them. What you reveal, you can heal. What you hide is going to cause you suffering. If you're hiding it, if you're pretending, if you're feeling like, oh, we had a good month because we didn't argue, but the only reason you had a good month and you didn't argue was because you weren't really talking, you weren't really addressing your issues, that's not a win. A win, a true, authentic win, means you actually did the work. And I know for a lot of people, that's a very harsh thing to say because we're in the time frame, the time where everybody wants a quick fix. Everybody wants just like people who aspire to be entrepreneurs and they want like a get rich quick thing. They're like, what can I do to get rich quick? Like those things don't last. What lasts are the things that are realistic, like actually putting forth effort and doing the work. But not everybody wants to do the work. But I feel like when you want it to be real, when you want it to actually work, not just pretend, that's when you're willing to do the work. And that's the only thing that's going to transform your relationship. That's the only thing that's going to turn it around and give you the true peace. You can have fake peace. And fake peace meaning you're both are faking it and you can pretend like you're peaceful in the relationship. You can post your pictures on social media. You can go get up and go to bed and act like roommates all day long, talk about surface level things. You can fake it. Absolutely. You don't really have peace because that's not what you want. And I know that from counseling so many PMDD clients where it's like, you don't really want that. You don't really want to be with someone where they're not being true to who they are. Like, nobody wants that. I don't want to be like, hey, babe, how are you? And they're like, I'm great. And they're really suffering. I don't want that. I want you to feel great. I want you to say, I'm great, but I want it to be when it's the truth of who you are. And some of the things that keep us from admitting that for those who have PMDD is the ego. The ego and pride is like, I'm good. I'm fully capable of doing what I can do in my follicular phase. No, the heck you are not. And if this wasn't a censored podcast, you know what I would say. No, you're not. So like in the words, like just let's be clear. Let's be clear. No, you're not. So stop pretending like you're fine. Stop pretending that you're okay. You're not going to get support for something that you're not willing to expose. What you don't reveal, you can't heal. Stop hiding your pain. A lot of times, if you look at these people that are committing suicide, it's people that were posting happy pictures hours ago. And I'm tired of seeing that. I'm tired of seeing situations where people are posting that they're happy and then 5 minutes later getting off live or off of post and committing suicide and ending their life. Be honest, be real so that you can get the support from people. I would rather someone, and I know that there's so much bashing about people who go online and they cry or they, show emotion, which I think is stupid because why do you have no issue with people smiling all the time, knowing that this person doesn't smile all the time? But as soon as someone sheds some tears, you're like, oh, they're just doing it for attention. Well, was the person who was smiling doing it for attention? I would rather someone be open about going on social media and crying their eyes out to get the support and the validation that they need versus someone that's going on social media, posting a smiley picture and then slitting their throat or hanging themselves from a door or taking a billion pills to end themselves. And I'm sorry for being graphic, but these are things that have actually happened specifically in the PMDD community. where it's like, I'm fine, guys. Like, you got this. And I say that because I'm one of those people who are an advocate for, if you listen to the end of all of my reels, I always say you got this. But I'm not saying you got this because I'm not doing any work to get it myself. Like, I know when I say you got this means I have to wake up every day and manage my PMDD. I cannot live my life blindly as if I don't have PMDD. I will never do that because that is not what I advise for my private clients. I literally live, and if you follow me on Instagram, I vlog my life every single day, whether I'm in PMDD and ovulation and menstruation and my follicular phase. I let you know what's going on with me every single day. And I will never portray to you that every day is sunshine and rainbows. And I won't tell you every single day is crappy. I have amazing days, specifically in ovulation and my follicular days. But then I go into PMDD and I have days where I suffer. It's the ebbs and flows, but I will not go on social media and only paint a picture of myself that is half the month, because then it's going to make the people that are suffering feel bad about themselves because they're like, why can't I get it together? I wish I could be like Dr. Rose. No, 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 no. If I'm suffering, when I'm suffering, you're going to know. And I don't want you to suffer with me. I don't want you to pity me, but I want you to know. Like, if it's days where I'm feeling fatigued, like, I'm going to just tell you, I'm tired. If it's days that I'm feeling depressed, I'm like, this is not about. And sometimes, and I think the last couple of cycles, I haven't even tried to fight it. I just try to lean in and explore it. If I'm feeling a lot of anxiety, like I was feeling anxiety and I was dating this one person. And that was actually a sign. I started listening to my body more, which was something that I didn't do, but I got help with. I got a dating mentor, counselor, and they're like, pay attention to how your body feels when you're around this person. And I'm like, what? Like, because I'm either single or I'm married. Like, I don't like, I'm like, what do you mean pay attention to my body? Like, what are you talking about? They're basically like, your body's going to tell you everything you need to know about a person. So even if you pretend, even if they're pretending like, oh, I'm this great person, if you're feeling anxiety, if you're feeling at ease or like not at ease, that your body's telling you something about that person. That was like such a gift because I was like, wait, I do feel a lot of anxiety, or I do feel calm around this person. Like, I was so grateful for that nugget, for that knowledge, because I needed that. I needed to know that, like, my body keeps the score just like it does with PMDD and dating. And I'm just like, ugh. But yeah, so I just want to let you know, if you're not okay, it's okay to not be okay, but it's not okay to not be okay and not get help. That's why I'm here. That's why I created my sessions privately. I love that you're listening here, but I would love for you to take advantage of my PMDD partners, like the strategy sessions where you have a plan for what it is that you're going to do when you go into PMDD. And then also my pyramid sessions, where I have a session with you, I have a session with your partner, and then I have a session together, and I'm strategically giving you the tools. Like, these are things that you need. You're not meant to do this alone. You can't create a clone of yourself, and like, you just can't do it. I couldn't do it. I'm not expecting you to do it. I don't want you to beat yourself up because you're not able to do it. But if you're not okay, you're not okay, and that's okay. I hope that makes sense to you. Because when I go into PMDD, I have a little bit of ADD, like all over the place. But if you're not okay, get help. That's why I'm here. And there's nothing shameful about it. It's not like, oh, I should be able to navigate it myself. I should be able to do it. No, 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 no. Listen, I've suffered with PMDD for over 18 years. I went to school with people who didn't know about PMDD and then coached hundreds of people who had PMDD. My doctorate took me 6 years. There's no way that I'm expecting you to go through this level of training and suffering. This is why I'm here. So you don't have to go through that. You don't have to go through all that. So you can skip it all by just getting the sessions with me. I don't like, and I told a private client of mine, they were like, I sent my person a article about PMDD, and I'm like, an article, just so we're clear, and sending your partner an article about PMDD is not going to help them understand about PMDD. This is why I created my new program that I'm releasing. And that by the time this podcast is released, it'll be released. It's called My Partner Has PMDD, Now What? And it is giving you, your partner, the exact tools of what to do for you and PMDD without you having to explain it. Because I know a lot of times for us who have PMDD, it's really hard to explain it. So I'm going to have them, the thing is very simple, but it's very strategic. And it's going to be released. I'll put the link in the show notes, but it's called My Partner Has PMDD, Now What? Because a lot of times you tell your partner you have PMDD, you tell them, I finally know what's going on with me. And then they don't know what to do with that knowledge. So if that's something that you know that you need help with, get those sessions, get that course, and I will see you next time. We got this. Love you. I hope this PMDD episode helped you and your partner in your struggles within your relationship. And if this is something that you know that you need help with and you need further support, individualized support, make sure you're going to inlovewithpmdd.com and you're getting those private sessions to really work through what you're going through in your relationship, specifically in regards to PMDD. And also, I want you to leave a 5-star written review on Apple Podcasts. What this does is it helps other PMDD sufferers and partners find this show that can help them get these free PMDD relationship tools. I remember what it felt like to not know that there were tools out there specifically for PMDD relationships. So I want to make sure that you are sharing these tools with others, share them on your social media, share them with people that you know that are also struggling in their PMDD relationships. Until next episode, this is Dr. Rose, your PMDD relationship psychotraumatologist. One more thing, I almost forgot. I now have the Fresh Start PMDD Partners Workbook. What this workbook can do is if you've had past traumatic experiences with your partner, past fights, past arguments, and they keep coming up every single month in PMDD, I created a Fresh Start Workbook so that you can deal with all of the traumatic experiences that have happened in the past in PMDD rage and all of these things so you can stop going through the same cycle again and again and again. So get that workbook. It comes with a video episode of the actual podcast that I recorded on getting a fresh start in your PMDD relationship. So you're not continuing the same cycle again and again and again. So make sure that you get that workbook. And if you need those individualized counseling sessions, you know where to go, inlovewithpmdd.com. Until next time, we got this. Love you.